Let's start just with a little bit of a review of what the Flex 5 project is. I'm sure most of you know already, and if you've seen some of our previous webinars or been keeping up with our blog, we've talked about it a little bit. But Flex 5 is the project that we're working on to transition Flex into the HTML5 web programming language. So right now, of course, Flex is programmed in Flash. When you access a Flex site via your web browser, it pulls up a Flash front end. And if any of you are a little bit more tech savvy, then you've probably learned recently that Flash is kind of on its way out. Web browsers are starting to disable it by default. Of course, they'll still support it, but when you, for example, first install Chrome, by default, Flash is not enabled. You have to turn it on. It's just kind of signaling that a lot of these web browsers are kind of moving away from Flash. So what we need to do is transition the Flex product from a Flash front end to an HTML5 front end. That's the web technology that we decided to use. We feel like HTML has been around for a long time. It's not really going anywhere anytime soon. So we're going to redevelop Flex with an HTML5 front end, and we are naming that project Flex 5. If you want a little bit more detail about the background of this project, you can check out our blog. We have another webinar video that's on our YouTube page about this. But just a really quick overview of the direction that we're going with Flex 5 is we had to make a decision about how you will be able to access Flex on different devices. Our first inclination was to develop just the desktop version of Flex in HTML5 and then allow users to be able to open that on any device, and it would be a responsive interface that would change based on whichever device you're opening on, whether it be a phone or a tablet, etc. We found a few challenges with that, though, because Flex, I think by any standard, is an incredibly rich web-based product that's a lot different than just like a simple like e-commerce site or blog that is pretty easy to adapt between desktop, tablet, phone, etc. You can make that very responsive so that, for example, from a tablet, you could just open Chrome or Safari or whatever your web browser of choice is, pull up that site, and it would adapt to whatever environment you're opening it in. Flex, we found, was incredibly challenging to be able to do that. Plus, there are a few other things that kind of come up when we thought about doing a desktop-only responsive app. One of those being you would have to open a web browser on your device. You would have to navigate to your Flex site. You would have to log in every time, and that just seemed a little bit cumbersome. So what we decided to do was design in HTML5 different applications for each platform. So for example, you can see that we have a dedicated application here on my iPad. You'll have a dedicated application that you can download onto your phone so that way you have Flex just one tap away. All you have to do is open the application. You'll be able to stay logged in. And plus, doing it this way enabled us to access a lot of the native features associated with, like, for example, iOS would be able to access things like the camera, contacts, and things like that a little bit easier. So it makes for a much more smooth and user-friendly experience when you have a native application. Now, one thing I'll get out of the way now is mention that we are designing the tablet and phone applications in HTML5. So that means that we'll be able to deploy them on an iOS or Android device. So it's not going to be exclusive to one or the other. Many of you may have downloaded our previous mobile offering called Flex Mobile. That was iOS only. So Flex 5, the applications, we're basically just developing them in HTML5, and then we'll, for lack of a better term, wrap them in a deployable application that can be either deployed in the Apple App Store or the Android App Store, etc. And I see a question in the chat room. it is going to be a free application. So as long as you have an active Flex subscription, then you'll be able to download the new tablet and phone applications for free and be able to use them with your existing Flex subscription. So again, you won't just be able to download them and use them if you don't have an active Flex subscription. So let me just give a little bit of a setup background information about the demo you're going to see today. We're using a live Flex site that's called flex5demo.flexrentalsolutions.com. So we're accessing this site just like you are accessing your own Flex instance. So let's just go over to the tablet and open the application and start showing you some of the progress that we've made. So I'm just going to tap Flex 5 down in the corner there. And if I was logged in, then it would just bring me immediately to our dashboard screen, but I wanted to show you what our login screen looks like. First of all, just like in our Flex Mobile, you'll be able to do this. The second you hit the dot, it will autofill flexrentalsolutions.com just so you don't have to type that in. A small thing, but also a nice little time saver. So I'm logging in as myself. I just created a simple password because I don't want you to see my actual password. And now I'm logged in. Let me walk you through just a little bit about what you're seeing here. One of the big things that we wanted to do with Flex 5 was to resolve any of the problems, and not necessarily like problems with the application, but problems with what they're trying to do day to day by using Flex. So basically, we came up with this idea of a dashboard that would allow you to put on different widgets according to the information that you want to see and the data that you want to be able to access when you open Flex. So our dashboard can be multiple pages. And as you can see, we have a couple widgets set up already. This is one thing that we're still working on. But basically, your dashboard can have, here's one example, an element list. Here I've said I want this to show quotes. And I want them to show in these statuses between a certain date range. And so now I have a widget that's showing certain quotes between that date range. I could set up another widget that is just showing pull sheets within a certain status. So like I was saying, this is our dashboard. We don't have too many widgets that are created just yet, but this is an idea of some of the widgets you would be able to put on the dashboard. Here's another one we call a quick launcher. You can come in and change your settings to show which things you want to quickly access, like a new contact, new inventory, or go directly to an inquiry scan or free scan, things like that. So the idea is just that when you log into Flex, you'll have your own personal widgets set up so that you'll be able to do the things that you quickly need to do. Let's look at a couple other things really quick. We have the hamburger menu up in the left-hand side for a quick, easy access to all of the different actions and screens and tools that you can use in Flex 5. And at this point, I would mention that version 1 of our tablet application, it will be very contact, inventory, and warehouse operation heavy. We didn't want to release an application that did less than our current offering. So if some of you have downloaded Flex Mobile, then you'll see that it's mostly a warehousing type application where you can scan things in and out, view lists of pull sheets, etc. So we wanted to release a version 1 of the Flex 5 tablet that did at least that, and then a little bit more. But we also didn't want to have to develop every single aspect of what we want to be available on Flex 5 tablet because that could take the better part of a year. So we wanted to be able to release something to our customers, and then of course in version 2, version 3, as we continue to release, we'll add additional functionality. So version 1 will be more of be able to create, edit contacts, view schedules, for inventory, create, view inventory, view schedules of inventory, and then of course the same warehouse functionality that is available in Flex Mobile, like scanning things in and out and things like that. So that will be more or less what we have available in the version 1. Version 2 and 3 will start getting into things like creating and editing pull sheets, quotes, etc. But in the version 1, there won't be any viewing or editing of quotes. But don't worry, that is coming. And of course, we're going to listen to our users' feedback and see what are the things you want to be able to do on a tablet application, and then start developing those things as we go. So it will be a very feature-rich application. The version 1 of the product, though, will be limited to, like I said, just contacts, inventory, and warehouse operations. We also have a very robust search that we've put into the application. So you can see up in the top right-hand corner a magnifying glass that will be on almost every screen you go to. So when you tap that, we can search for either a contact. And I have right now my iPad is set up with the external keyboard, so you don't see the keyboard pop up. But if you were just using an iPad and it wasn't on a cradle or anything, of course the on-screen keyboard would pop up. So we have quick view of contacts. You could tap through and view any contact that matches any of the key words that you typed into the search. From this quick view, you can quickly view, not just view, but actually have actionable actions, for lack of a better term, with each of their phone numbers, addresses, etc. So if I tap on shipping address, it would open up in Maps the address that you have in there. Tap on phone, there are all the actions that I could do with that phone number. And then of course I could always just open the full view of the contact and view all of the information. View schedule, which right now we don't have implemented, but we're working on that right now. And then of course I could always come up here and edit or delete the contact. If I want to change the photo, I could take a picture or choose from the image library. And that's where I was talking about having a native application. We'll be able to access things like the camera, the image library on the device, etc. Maybe I want to choose the company that this person is associated with. So I could search for a new company, change that. Add a new phone number, just click the plus button. Delete any numbers. So it's a very familiar user interface. We tried to use as much familiarity as we could in terms of how tablet applications look and feel. We don't want there to be too much of a learning curve, so most of what we put in here is just very familiar to a tablet. Let's go back to our search. We could also search inventory. And again, this is just kind of our quick view. We could tap through quickly and view information about all of this inventory. And then let's say that I want to view more detailed information, so I could click my actions, open the item. Here, of course, I could change the model image just like we were able to change the contact photo. View quantities. If the item is serialized, you could view serial units and add new serial units. And you'll see a lot of blank spaces here. That either just means that I don't have that information input into the system, or it's just something that we're polishing up right now, because again, this is a very beta version of Flex 5 tablet. If I want to view more information about a unit, I could open the entire unit and view a maintenance log if there are any entries there, scan log. Again, there's a lot of this just isn't showing up because I don't have any maintenance or scan information for this particular item, but a lot of this stuff is programmed into the application. And then something that we just implemented recently that I am really excited about is the inventory schedule. So of course right now I don't have this particular item on any upcoming job, so the schedule doesn't really show anything. But I could maybe tap through and find another item, go straight to the schedule. I'm not going to have anything actually scheduled for any job right now, but from here we could look at a week or a month view, change which resource type we're viewing, rental, retail, etc. So really cool stuff. I was really excited when we saw that implemented. I think that's going to be really useful to you as you are trying to manage your inventory and schedules. You'll just be able to do that right from your tablet device. Let me just show you what a couple other screens look like. If we hit New Contact here in the Quick Launcher, and of course I could add a new contact there. New inventory model. Could choose the primary group. Choose an icon. Preset. So the really cool thing about everything that you're seeing here is we're actually communicating to a live database right now. So this isn't just a demo with dummy data or anything. I'm actually logged into, and when I hit the hamburger menu, you can see I'm logged into flex5demo.flexrentalsolutions.com. So anything that I do on this tablet application will be updated into Flex 5 Demo on my desktop. So this is an actual working version of Flex 5 tablet. It is communicating with a live database and speaking right back to the Flex 4 desktop version. So that was a pretty big hurdle that we were able to overcome, because a big part of what we're doing is not only just redeveloping the whole front end of Flex into HTML5, but we're also redeveloping the back end. So throughout the years as we've developed Flex, the connection pool, the database connections, the APIs, all of that back-end stuff sometimes got a little bit messy. We were really rushing to develop it quickly, and so that's why you might see on occasion some speed issues and things like that with Flex. Just because of how the front end is trying to communicate with the back end and the database, etc. So a big part of what we're doing is actually redeveloping the back end as we go, developing new APIs to connect the front end to the back. And so in doing that, one of our challenges was getting Flex 5 to communicate with the old Flex 4 database, and we've been able to do that. So you can use this Flex 5 with your current system, and it will communicate with live data and update live data as well. Last thing that I want to look at is our inquiry scan. So right now we are actively working on developing the other scan screens, but for now we wanted to implement the inquiry scan just as a proof of concept of what scanning screens will look like and how they will function. So if we look at inquiry scan, you see all my options here. Down at the bottom left, I could choose a location and which sound theme I'm using, and then we'll have some other settings in that cogwheel as well. And then we also have instructions in how you can scan on this screen. So number one, I could just enter a barcode into the barcode entry field. And right now I have my sound porting through my computer, which is muted, but you would have heard the sound theme that I was using, and you could hear the live scan successful sound. So basically I'm just going through and just typing in barcodes that I know exist in my system. And the really cool thing about this is, unlike in the desktop application when you're doing any sort of scan and you're on any kind of scan screen, you can scan through items and you can see the list of what you scanned, but you can't really go back to any of those scans. So let's say that I've been scanning a bunch of items, and of course we're just on inquiry scan, but let's say that I have been free scanning items in, or I'm returning a manifest or something. And then I realized that maybe 10 scans ago there's something I wanted to do to that item. So I could tap through my list, and you can see on the far left kind of the blue placement notifier, I guess is what I would call it, but it's basically letting me tap through and view any of the previous items that I scanned. So if I need to go back to that 00123 D&B speaker, I could tap on that, open that unit, edit the unit, log maintenance on it, print that barcode. So maybe it came back with a crummy looking barcode and I just want to be able to print a new barcode. I could do that. I could hit log maintenance and that would pop up the log maintenance screen. And then eventually, we don't have it developed yet, but we'll have the ability to undo that scan and things like that. So that's kind of our proof of concept of how a scanning screen might look. A couple of the other options that we have as well. If you notice in the top right, we have the Bluetooth icon. That means that you can actually connect a Bluetooth scanner to your device. And it works just like in Flex. Remember how in Flex Desktop, you program your scanner to first send to the Shift 6 key, which tells Flex to go into the barcode input field, and then it will scan the barcode and hit enter. And that's how you scan in Flex. So it works very similar in the tablet application, where when you hit that Bluetooth icon, it just automatically puts the cursor into the cursor field up in the top left there. And then you can start scanning, and Flex will automatically send those barcodes and hit enter for you, so that you could just go through and keep scanning without having to continually put the cursor back into that field. So it works really well. We were demoing this at InfoComm. Chris has a small Bluetooth scanner, just a tiny one. It's probably about the size, maybe like half of a deck of cards. But we were able to link that to our iPad and then go through, and we were scanning a cheat sheet, and the scanning was working really well. And then, of course, we have the ability to open up a camera. You can see that icon in the top left corner as well. And of course, I don't have any actual inventory here, but you can see the scanner line. You can actually use your camera as a scanner. And that works really well too. We were demoing that at InfoComm as well. The camera picks up barcodes really well, and will scan those and pop up the information. So for a lot of people with the tablet and phone devices, you'll be able to just use that camera as your scanner. And we also have a way, right now it's not implemented, but right now it would be single scanning, where I would scan a barcode and then it would open. It would just go back to this screen and show me what I scanned. So right now you would have to hit the camera every time you want to scan. But we are working on developing a quick scan screen, where we would go and open the camera, and we'd be able to quickly scan items, and the information would just show up overlaid on this scanning screen. So that way you don't have to keep hitting the camera icon, and you could just go through and kind of rapidly scan items with your device. The question in the chat room, will it read QR codes? I believe that is more device oriented. And so I think an iPad and Android device, of course, do have the ability to read QR codes with the camera. And I think the tool that we're using for camera access in our Flex 5 application should be able to read QR codes. I personally haven't tested it, but Flex will read whatever data the camera is sending. So as long as the camera on your device and your device is able to encode QR codes, then Flex will just basically just receive that barcode number that's coming from the QR code. Excuse me. So that's really what we wanted to show today as our Flex 5 sneak preview. Again, you'll notice that a lot of this isn't quite actionable yet. Those are things that will be implemented in later versions. But for now, we at least have the ability to list off elements like quotes, pull sheets, etc. The ability to create contacts, edit contacts, create and edit inventory, and view important information about inventory too, which I think is one thing that was definitely lacking in the previous mobile version. And then, of course, the ability to scan and things like that. And then, like I said, in version 2, 3, and future versions, we'll implement the ability to actually view quotes, edit quotes, and do some more complex things like with your inventory, etc. I don't believe that Flex 5 tablet or Flex 5 phone will be a full functioning version of Flex. I do know that we're going to try to put in as much as we can just based on user feedback. But for example, if you need to go in and change some sort of deep system setting like maybe your sound themes, we're probably never going to have the ability to go in and edit sound themes and upload sounds from a tablet. There are certain things that will probably always be desktop only. But the things that you want to do day to day on a tablet, like say you're on a site visit and you just want to pull up a quote, or you want to build a quick quote while you're visiting with a client over lunch or something like that. We're going to try to implement as much as we can into the tablet version that will appease our customers and the things that they would want to do from a tablet. But of course, a lot of the deeper system settings we'll probably never put in a tablet or phone interface. Again, we are taking suggestions and recommendations from our users. So if there is something that you would like to see, and especially after we get a version 2 or version 3 of tablet out, if there's something you'd want to be able to do on the tablet that you haven't seen quite yet, you can always recommend that to us. We'll see what the general Flex user population thinks about that, who actually wants to be able to do that on a tablet application, and then we'll think about developing that into the tablet and phone apps. The road ahead, we're going to release this tablet version sometime later this year. We don't have a set date yet, but we're hoping to see that in the next few months. The phone application will be much easier to develop because we're just going to reuse a lot of the user interface from tablet. We just need to adapt it to a smaller screen. And then after we've released a version 1 of tablet and phone, we're going to start prototyping and implementing Flex 5 HTML5 into the desktop version of Flex as well. We're going to try to keep the desktop version as much the same as we can in terms of user interface, just so you don't have to learn an entirely new product. Of course, some things are going to be different because we're using a different toolkit that has different tools that we can use to build an application, but we're going to try to keep as much the same as we can. Of course, adding some new features that will be useful, but we don't want to change things so drastically that you have to learn how to use an entirely new desktop application. So that's kind of the road forward. Of course, we don't have a set date on when this is all going to be done, but you will see progress as we move forward. So obviously, we're already seeing the progress on our tablet application, and that will be available to you sometime later this year. And then on the desktop application, you'll start seeing progress as we implement it. So it's not like it's going to be a year or a year and a half process of us developing the desktop, and you're not going to see any of that until we're completely done. You'll be able to see the progress as we go. You'll be able to call up the HTML5 interface if you want to use that. We're going to start with the major items first, like quoting, inventory items, and things like that, and then eventually get to all the different system settings pages, etc. So it is a pretty large process just because Flex is such a large application, and because we're doing so much with rewriting APIs and the back end as well. But we are committed to this project. We're not just dragging our feet on it. We've hired new full-time developers, so we have a full-time development staff of 5 now that's actively working on Flex 5, trying to get that out as soon as we can, because we really think it's going to be a huge benefit to our customers. Just being able to use Flex on different devices, have a bit more of a stable and responsive front end in HTML5, and then also all of the back end changes that we're going to implement as well. So like I said, you'll see the progress as we go, and we're going to try to keep you updated on that progress as much as possible too. You can always check out our blog. We'll be doing webinars every couple months just showing you the progress of Flex 5. So that you can actually see where we're going. You can give us feedback and things like that, but we're definitely not trying to keep it secret. We want you to be involved. We want you to know what the progress is. We want you to see sort of our tentative release dates, just so you know what's going on, so there's not as much guesswork there. So if you have any questions about Flex 5, you can go ahead and email me personally. My email is brandon@flexrentalsolutions.com, and that's Brandon with the BRANDEN, not ON. I'm kind of in charge of prototyping and helping out with implementing features that are requested and just getting feedback from our users. If you have any questions about functionality of Flex, of course, you can always email support@flexrentalsolutions.com. And for anybody who's live here in the webinar, I'm happy to stick around for a minute and answer any questions that you might have about anything we discussed today.